Well, good morning. It is Sunday morning and it is a cold January morning and there is a threat of snow coming our way. And so we decided this morning we would let everybody stay home, or suggest that people stay home and off the roads and just enjoy this time of winter weather. So Blake and I just want to extend our love to everyone and just tell you that we are praying for you. We believe the best for you today. And so we just want to share a little bit of word. And so I'm going to start in Psalm 139. I'm going to pick up a few scriptures there and then bounce into the New Testament. You know, a couple of weeks ago, I shared about the transformation process, which I think is really, it is the Christian road. If you've ever had a chance to read, I think it's Hind's Feet on High Places. It's a really unique allegory, but it's all about this journey that we go on as a Christian. And so I just wanted to continue that thought process. Last week, Blake planted the seeds, the thoughts for increase for this year. And so just kind of putting those two things together, that we want to change the narratives, we want to change and look toward transformation. But I think one of the first places that we have to understand is that, number one, change is not easy. If it was easy, everybody could do it, right? It would just be something that we say, well, why don't they just stop this? Why don't they just do this? But we don't understand the power of habits, the power of our belief systems, and that it's more than just the cognitive thinking of the front part of our brain. Because if we could will to do it, you know, like Paul in Romans 7, it's a very classic passage where we see the right thing to do, but we're not able to perform it. And he comes to the end of the futility and says, you know, what then is there for me? Who can save this wretched man? And it was that it's Jesus. He is the one who came. He came in the flesh. He died to sin in the flesh. And therefore now there's no condemnation. And so we're going to look at what does that mean as we are in the transformation process, all right? So one of the first things that, you know, when you start looking at the first of the year and you start looking in the book of Proverbs and all the different things, we want to look at wisdom. Wisdom is the principal thing. Wisdom is that which is taking knowledge and being able to apply it to our life. And we find out in the New Testament that Christ has been made unto us as wisdom. So he is the wisdom of God. Going to the cross was the wisdom of God. And that right there will keep you busy thinking and meditating on that for a long, long time, okay? And so to get into this place of wisdom, to get into this place of transformation, we're gonna look at what are the attitudes, what are the things that bring us into this place of transformation and keep us on the path of transformation, okay? And so here in Psalm 139, it's a beautiful passage, and I love the translation of the Passion Version because it really just takes it and amplifies these thoughts that God has for us. And so it says, Lord, you know everything there is to know about me. You perceive every movement of my heart and soul, and you understand my every thought before it even enters my mind. It says, you are so intimately aware of me, Lord. You read my heart like an open book. And you know all the words I'm about to speak before I even start a sentence. You ever got in that place and you go, what was I thinking? Well, God knew. God knew what was behind it. And so he actually knows our motivations. He knows us. He's intimate with us. He's watched us. And as you see in this passage, he created us in the womb. So he saw us from the beginning. And then and so it says, you have laid your hand on me. This is too wonderful and deep and incomprehensible. Your understanding of me brings me wonder and strength. See, think about that. And so he goes on, and then he begins to talk about down here in verse 13, you formed me in my innermost being, shaping my delicate inside and my intricate outside. You wove them together in my mother's womb. And he goes on to thank him for making him so complex and all the different things. And when we get down here to verse 22, he says, I invite your searching gaze into my heart. Examine me through and through. Find out everything that may be hidden within me. Put me to the test and sift through all my anxious cares. And then he goes on to say, see if there's any path of pain that I'm walking on, and lead me back to your glorious everlasting way, the path that brings me back to you. And so in this passage, here, how we're going to tie this into wisdom is the fact that God knows us. So let's start with this place right here. This is where all wisdom begins, the fear of the Lord. And so what is the fear of the Lord? The fear of the Lord in reality is the honor and the respect for him being God. Just to say, so the fear of the Lord is to bow our knee and say, Jesus, you are Lord. I need a Savior. I bow my knee in honor to the greater one. And so the place of respect, the place of honor, the place of the fear of the Lord is to bow in our hearts and say, you're the creator. I'm the creation. You're the father. I'm the child. You are the physician. I'm the one who needs healed. And so it's always the place of honor. And so in that relationship, it is a place of humility that takes that role. See, God, he has to resist the proud. It tells us in James and also in Proverbs that he has to resist the proud, okay? He can get very little through us when we're in a state of pride, okay? So and many times we're in pride when we don't even, we might be belittling ourselves. We might be talking down about ourselves, but that's not humility. Humility is taking a rightful position. And a rightful position says, God created me, therefore he loves me. God redeemed me, therefore he loves me. It says in Ephesians 2:10, one of my favorite scriptures, we are God's workmanship. We are his workmanship. Would you go up to this awesome creator, artist, poet, and tell him, well, this creation was faulty, it was bad, you shouldn't have made it? No. So to honor God is to honor what he created in us, to give it value, to give it a place of honor that says, no, I'm important because God said I was important, because he created me, and therefore I am his, and he's got purpose for me. And so see, true honor and respect takes our rightful position, not a downgraded position, not a place that we say where we're belittling ourselves. That's not humility. Humility takes the rightful position. I'm a child. I have a loving father. I am the clay, and he's molding me, and he's making me, and he's creating in me this vessel of honor. Okay? And so he's working in me both to will and do his good pleasure. I am his workmanship. I was created by him, for good works that he created from the foundation of the earth. He knows me. And so this passage in Psalm 139 gives us that place of childlike wonder, where we can approach the Father. We can approach life with this childlike wonder who just says, what are you going to show me today? What are you going to teach me today? And so the path and the progress of transformation is actually the path of learning, okay? So we've all been, see, when we see this passage and he says, I understand you, I know. So see, he created us in our mother's wombs. He wove us together. But then he also knows from the time we came into the earth what our environment was, what we were taught, what events happened to us that begin to shape our belief system. Where, we talked about there's an event, and then we have an explanation as a child. And the reason we come up with an explanation is because it's part of our survival. As a child, we don't have all the concepts and the logic and the reasoning ability as an adult. And so what we have to do is we have to put some kind of explanation that makes us come to a place of being able to survive, gives us some kind of security in whatever that situation is that's going on around us. And so then there's also an emotion attached to it, and that anchors it into our soul. And that's why it becomes a strong hold. It holds us. It's a strength. It's this strong place. But what happens is that may cause us to have survival skills through our childhood. And I'm not saying everybody had awful abusive homes, but we all went through things based on the sin nature and the cultures around us. Events happened to us and it shaped us, and we developed beliefs. And in those beliefs then are where our actions are coming from. So then now in our adult life, there's an action takes place and then we react. But what we don't understand is in the middle, there's a belief. There's some way that we just perceived that action. And when we perceived it that way, we had a similar reaction. And that reaction could have been based on something that was started way back. But we're now, so have you ever heard that's an overreaction? Well, that tends to be because we aren't understanding where this belief system came from. And so the beginning of wisdom is the fear of the Lord. And so coming to Him and understanding that when we get born again, we have now bowed our knees. We've said, yes, I need a Savior. Okay, so that's the beginning. That's the beginning of the wisdom. That's the beginning of the journey. And so what happens many times, though, is we get into church and we learn church language. Okay, we don't actually transform a lot. We just kind of get on, like maybe we thought we were bad in our other life, and so now we're learning to do good, what people call good things. You know, we go to church, and we learn a certain amount of good and bad, good and evil. Everything is still over here in good and evil, good and evil. And that's religion. And it's still the way of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, okay? And so we live in this place where now everything is being judged. We judge ourselves on good and evil, we judge others on good and evil, and we look at behavior and we say, well, and that behavior many times is still what we may call it good. Well, I was doing the right thing. I mean, I was walking in love. If it's not bringing fruit forward, it's probably not love. It's probably your version of what you think is love, okay? Because we're going to find out love is actually extremely patient. That's the awesome thing about our Father. And so I think about this path. He talks about the straight and narrow, the narrow path, the straight path. Well, today as I've been meditating, I've been seeing that as a bowling lane. Okay, that's a pretty narrow, straight path, isn't it? And there's a target at the end. And that target is God. That's who we're growing into. That's what He's created us for. It's His image, okay? And so on the sides there are gutters. And if you bowl like I do, you're familiar with gutters, okay? And so you've got on this ditch, you've got the religion of learning to say the right thing, do the right thing in front of people, get an image, but yet at home, life has not really changed. Inside, it's not really changed, but we become deceived because we learn the right things to say and do in front of other people. Okay, and so it's all about this image, and there's a lot of judging, there's a lot of criticism, and all on this side, and strife. Why? Because there's still pride. Pride is really what's running this side, this ditch over here. Okay, this gutter. All right. So on this gutter though is the side that just says I'm condemned, I'm not good enough, I'm and just constantly struggling with shame, constantly struggling with I'm not enough, I don't think God would really do anything for me, I don't know that He loves me, he does this for other people, but I'm not sure He would do it for me. And so this is the other gutter, okay? And so God puts up, this is the cool thing about the Lord. In this path of transformation, if we will stay in the attitude, okay? So we're going to let's go to another scripture in Ephesians. So I know I'm rambling a little bit, but there is a landing place here. But in Ephesians, the 4th chapter, and I want to read this out of the Amplified Version. because it amplifies it very well. And it says here in, I believe starts in 22, it says, strip yourselves of your former nature, which characterized your previous manner of life and becomes corrupt through lust and desires that spring from a delusion. Okay, and we can dig into that. I believe a lot of that is stuck back here in those belief systems, those strongholds of desire and thoughts that have shaped us over our life. And he says, be constantly renewed in the spirit of your mind. Okay, not just having your mind transformed, but now we're talking about, and listen to the language, constantly being renewed. So this is an ongoing, it's a present participle type, constant. I'm constantly in this renewing of the spirit of my mind. So the spirit of your mind, think about if you are, a cheerleader, or if you're a fan, you're gonna have what? You're gonna have spirit. And spirit means there's this, enthusiasm, it's this attitude, it's this emotional part, this way we come at it to approach something, okay? So he talks about here, he says the spirit of your mind having a fresh mental and spiritual attitude. So freshness, there's a freshness, and to me that's daily. That's the daily manna, to get up every day and to realize that my greatest task is to sit at the master's feet, okay? You say, sit at his feet. Well, yeah, because that is the way. That's the picture we get of Mary in the book of Luke, that she was sitting at Jesus' feet. And that is a picture of a disciple, okay? He's the teacher, we're the disciples. There's another analogy for us. He's the teacher. So this is learning. So this path of transformation, this narrow way that he wants us to walk on, is the path of learning. And the very first thing you have to learn, which learning is transformation, is you have to come with this fresh mental attitude that says, you're the teacher, I'm the student. I'm here to learn. I'm here to transform. I'm here to grow. I'm here to begin to look like you and to apply what you're teaching. So that's the freshness, that's the mental and the spiritual attitude of humility that places ourselves at the feet, not just in an attitude of worship, which is powerful and is part of it, but it's also in a place to learn. To begin to listen intently, to begin to think about it. They didn't just learn like we do in our schools, okay? Because our school systems are, I'm sorry, but they're not really in great shape. If you really want to ask and know, we just give kids a bunch of facts, tell them to sit still. They're not, questioning and learning to think, learning how to think, learning how to contemplate, learning how to use logic and analysis. That's more important than just getting a lot of facts. And so Jesus would give things in story. He would give things in parable. He would give things, and why? Because he wanted it to stir something in you. He wanted you to question. He wanted you to come back with, how does that work? I don't understand. Why? Because then you could get more. But if you didn't pursue that, if you didn't come after more, seek and you will find, knock and the door's open, ask and you will receive. You had to keep coming. That was the path of learning. That's the path of the disciple. That's the path of transformation, is to keep coming with a fresh attitude that says, okay, you're the teacher, I'm the student. I don't ever get in the place where I try to put myself over. It said Paul sat at the feet of Gamaliel, okay? That's what that meant. He sat, he pondered his teachings. And the pathway of learning in that day was a dialogue. It was back and forth. It was debate. It was dialogue. It was meditation, going and sitting and thinking about, now what was he saying here? How does that work? What does that look like? What would that apply like? That's the path of learning and transformation, and it comes with this humility that says, okay, I'm eager, I want to learn, this is good, I want to hear, I want to know more. And so there's this freshness to and see, it creates a hunger. Like, okay, yeah, I want to know more. Tell me more about this. I lean in because I want to know more about what you're saying, because I see there's wisdom in this, and I see there's something of blessing in this. And I realize that you remember God said, I know everything you're going to say. So he knows when you're about to chew out your kid. He knows when you're about to stick your foot in your mouth. He knows why, the motivation. And he's like, are you tired of doing that? Well, get on my path and I'll teach you what's going on in the inside of you, why you're chewing your kid out, why you're chewing your spouse out, why you're getting frustrated at work, why these things keep coming, what is going on the inside. He's like, I can help you, but you're going to have to come and put yourself in this position to learn and transform. And see, religion gets you in a place of settling. See, you can get in those gutters and those ditches, and we can settle. So when you first get born again, you're hungry, you want to learn, you want to find out what this is, okay? And so there's there's like a pioneer spirit. I've heard Pastor Mark, I've heard a friend of mine, Lucy, teach on this pioneer spirit, the spirit that kept moving, the spirit that laid things aside and said, there's more out here. I got to keep looking. I got to keep moving. And then there were always people that said, nope, this is good. I like this land. We're going to settle right here. Okay. And they would put up homesteads and they would settle. And then there were people that, you could say they would call them museum keepers. So that would be the people that said, the Spirit moved in 1995, and man, it was great, it was awesome. And they always tell the same story from 1995, but they never have any stories since then. They're keeping the museum of where the Spirit moved. All right? Well, that's not who we are. We want to be the people that keep moving higher, that keep making progress on the high roads, that keep allowing God to get. Why? Because we want to go from glory to glory. And that is Him transforming us, so that the glory that's on the inside becomes evident on the outside. This is the path of glory. This is that highway of holiness. This is that path, and it is a transformational path. We were never meant to be perfect at the beginning. We are going toward the perfection. We are going toward, and we stay on that journey, that path. And what keeps us on the path and keeps us out of the gutters is this humility. It's this place of putting ourselves in a teachable place with a fresh mental attitude that says, okay, I'm willing to learn, And here's the bumper guards. The bumper guards, see, God puts out the bumper guards. And if we will allow it, these guards are His mercy and His grace. He puts them, He said, come boldly to the throne. Why? To get mercy and grace to help you in time of need. So there's these bumper things. And so what does that do? That keeps you on the path. And so as long as you're on this path, it is a path of love. God is love. He is and the very first thing that it tells us about love is patient. Patient beyond anything you have ever experienced. And so he talks about, you remember this passage in Ephesians 3, it says, how wide, how high, how deep, how much breadth. It's multi-dimensional, the love of God is. So it means really it can feel like a narrow way in some ways, but then it's wide, it's expansive, the way of love. And so these bumper guards, they keep us in there. Why? Because it says, there's a thing in psychology that says that when you're in a threat environment, all communication is shut down. Okay? And so what that means is, let's say you come into your child, you found out something and you just start blasting your kid. You're just, anger is coming out, you're blasting them for all this that you just found out. Well, they've shut down. They're not going to be able to respond. They're not going to be able to come. They might yell, but there's no communication going to go on here. Why? Because there's a threat. There's a threat now in place, and so communication is shut down. And so when we live, and so many times our educational process has been based on pass fail, You know, you got to get this or you're going to fail. And then if you fail, well, maybe you're a failure. And so there's reward and there's punishment. And it's punishment, reward, fear, okay? And so if you look in 1 Corinthians is great about love in the 13th chapter, but in 1 John chapter 4, he tells us that we are to abide in love. We're abiding in God, and this begins to grow in us, and it becomes perfect in us. And it says perfect love, mature love, actually casts out fear. For fear has thought of punishment, okay? It has to do with punishment. And that's where this pathway of God that he's set up for us, this highway of transformation, this highway of love, there's no fear. See, now that's what gives us this liberty to ask questions, this liberty to make mistakes, this liberty to draw close, and then to have times where we know we didn't walk with God in that. Yet there's now no more fear of condemnation. There's now no more fear of punishment. He just picks us up. A righteous man falls 7 times, but he gets back up. That means God the Father is always going, okay, that's okay, come on. Or he might talk a little stern. He might say, that's not what you need to do. That's not what we need to do. But it's not a fear of punishment. He's not going to smack us on the head. He's not striking us down. He's actually, as a father now, training us, okay? And so sometimes it might have a firm voice. If you're about to run into the street, you don't say, oh, honey, don't do that. No, you say, stop. Why? Because you know it's your child running into the street. And so it might sound firm and it might sound strong, but it's actually love, okay? Giving correction in the way that needs to be done. And so this is our Father. This is the path of learning. This is the path of transformation. It begins with understanding that He is God. He's the Father. He's the Creator. He's the lover. He's the one that wants us to become like Him, that grow into this image, because He knows on this path is not just blessing, but it's the favor and it's Him. It's His presence. It's being aware of Him. It's becoming more like Him. It's becoming more like Him in our thinking. And so keeping us out of the ditches, He puts mercy and grace there. And as long as we keep staying humble, as long as we keep bringing this spirit of our mind in a fresh mental attitude that says, I'm ready to learn. Yesterday I got distracted. Yesterday I ran all over the place, but hey, thank God for grace and mercy. I'm still in your love. I'm still on the path. I'm still in the lane. So today I'm bringing my hunger. Today I'm bringing my humility. I'm ready to learn. Thank you, there's no condemnation. Thank you, there's the blood covering me. And now teach me today. What can you show me today? And it's not just, and so this life on the inside of us then begins to produce this transformation. And transformation looks a lot like the fruit of the Spirit. Transformation looks like gentleness and joy and peace. That's the kind of transformation that takes place. But listen, it's not just limited. God is unlimited in every direction. He's not just wanting to transform us in that kind of direction, although that is the greatest. But He knows about mechanics. He knows about creative ideas. He knows about inventions. He knows about your job that you're trying to do. He knows about building. He's a master builder. He was a carpenter. He's a master builder. He's a designer. He designed all the creation and all the universe. He knows the stars, so he's an astronomer. He's a scientist. He put the laws into place here on the earth, so he knows all about that. He created the animals, so he knows about biology. And He created our bodies. And I mean, you can't get away from the majesty of His creation, When you begin to get into the science of health, it's amazing. It all comes back to the fact that we were created from the dust of the earth. And then there was the Spirit breathed in us, and it's electrical, and it responds to voice, it responds to sound. God knew all this. He knows all of it. He is that master, and He will, not only will He bring love and joy and patience and that kind of transformation in our life, but he will give us witty ideas and witty inventions. And if we'll ask questions, he'll teach us. He'll teach us how to eat. He'll teach us how to take care of our bodies. He'll teach us. He is a master teacher. And all it requires is the fact that we have to, number one, well, not all it requires, but the main thing it starts with is just recognizing that. That's the fear of the Lord. It's where wisdom begins. It's just to stay hungry, to realize there's more to learn. That's what made Einstein so brilliant, is that he asked questions. He said, always ask questions. Never stop. Just keep on pursuing this one who has all the knowledge, all the wisdom, all the love. And as you pursue him, you will be transformed and you will be changed into his image. So I think that's enough today. I'm just praying for all of us to grow, to transform, to blossom, to bloom, knowing that there's no more condemnation, knowing that we're not in a fear threat environment anymore, that love is surrounding us. Love is filling us and love is surrounding us. We do not have to fear making mistakes. We don't have to fear. We can ask questions. We can come with a hungry heart and we can learn. And that learning process looks like transformation. So today, I just encourage you to get in there. Come with a fresh attitude. Let that hunger drive you to learn and grow in him. And we love you, praying for you. I hope we get a little snow today. And just God bless you this week.